Welcome to the North vs. South podcast, where we discuss gaming, technology, TV and movies. This week, we discuss the new Switch announcement, the new Steam Deck announcement, and the new Stream Deck announcement. So, Tommy, how did you feel about this latest Switch revision?
When I first heard the announcement, I was very excited. I was thinking this might be the time to pull the trigger on the new on the Switch itself. But then, like a day later, when looking online for just like people's opinions, I saw that people's everyone was saying that this is not a good deal. Let's say you're not getting what you think you're paying for. So we're all expecting like a Switch Pro, but in the end we're only getting a OLED screen.
If I'm honest though, this is like when we were talking about the Switch rumors a few episodes. This is exactly what we were sort of like debating what's going to happen. Was it going to be the Xbox One Slim, or was it going to be the Xbox One X? And this is sort of a little bit in the middle, isn't it? Because it has got some new features, but it's not got any more performance. So it's not like One X where you can play games at a higher resolution or higher frame rate, whichever one it was. But it has got new hardware features with the OLED screen and the built-in Ethernet port. It's not a huge upgrade. It's also not that much more expensive either. It's about 40 quid more at MSRP, because I think originally it was 270 or 280, and I can see pre-orders are about 310 on Argos and other retailers. So I think this is more what I was expecting. In fact, in a weird way, I think there's been more than I would have expected there to been. Like, I certainly wasn't expecting a Switch Pro in this form factor. I was expecting a Switch Pro to be the opposite of the Switch Lite, so not as portable, more emphasis on the dock and being hooked up to a TV. What did you expect the Switch Pro to actually be before it was announced? What were you thinking?
I was expecting at least like some compatibility of upscaling to 4K. I'm not saying like native 4K, like maybe some like checkerboard rendering of the resolutions, so it would even just accept a 4K resolution. But we haven't got that, and I don't really see a point. If you got a Switch now, I don't really see a point upgrading, because if you just play your Switch docked, there's not really any upgrade except for the internal memory.
No, absolutely not. I mean, all the real features are in handheld mode, which is that OLED screen, and the kickstand is a bit better than the current one.
Yeah.
So in my head, what I know is OLED screen, Ethernet port, and a kickstand. A bit more storage. Okay. Is there anything else? Oh, it comes in white.
You said bigger screen, didn't you? A little bit of a bigger screen as well.
Slightly larger screen. But that's all it was, though.
And the same battery life as the most recent Switch revision, I think. So they're like, well, we've managed to put an OLED screen on it, and we managed to make it bigger, and it still retains the same battery life as the previous Switch as well. So
that's fair enough.
Yeah, I was very like excited, but when like just everyone on social media was like, this is terrible. But I think like you're saying, like there was a lot of expectation of a Switch Pro. And for
there
me
might
and
still
you,
be a Switch Pro. This isn't it, you know.
Well, I was thinking about that. Like, would there be a Switch Pro now? Would there not just be a Switch 2 that can run Switch games? Why would they want to call it a Switch Pro? Like,
well, it's about the form factor, isn't it? Form factor and price. So in my head, the family lineup runs Switch Lite, which only is handheld, 100%. Like you can't hook it up to a TV in any sense, as far as I'm aware. Then you've got the regular Joe Schmo Switch, which can be used in both handheld and docked mode. And in those two devices, they've got exactly the same performance, haven't they? I think the Switch, the normal Switch has more performance in docked mode, but if you compare them in handheld mode, I think they're pretty much identical.
Yeah.
I can see there being room for a Switch Pro, which would be sort of akin, it wouldn't even have the handheld aspect of it. It would just be something probably the size of an Apple TV. An Apple TV is quite small, and all that does is receive the connection from the Joy-Cons and the game controllers, and then just provides and somewhere for the cards to go in, and then that's got all the cables for power, network, and the TV, and that just goes out the back, so it can play all the games, but it has none of the portable functionality. And because it's not portable, you can have it slightly bigger, so you can put a bigger heatsink into it, or put a bigger fan, and that might be where you get your higher frame rates or your sort of resolution upscaling. So all three, you can see it because all three systems would be compatible game wise. They'd all play the same game, so you wouldn't you wouldn't have to say, "Oh, can my Switch play this game?" They all play exactly the same games, but a bit like the Series Xboxes, they can do that sort of like upscaling, and they can do upscaling to different sort of like levels or whatever. And that would be what the Switch Pro does. It doesn't restrict any gamings on the lower on the lower consoles. It just brings a little bit more on their end. And for people like me, like Jen and I, so incredibly rarely use it in the handheld mode that as long as the price isn't literally twice as much, it might be worth going for it, because in the long term, it's probably going to be more reliable than having that. I've always been concerned about the reliability of the Switch and the dock. The USB-C, and you kind of like throw it in there, and the screen being plastic and getting scratched. Obviously, the Joy-Cons have their own issue, but they are on this system detachable and replaceable. But that's sort of how I could see the Switch family being. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it might be that this is the half-life of the Switch family, and then in another 3 years' time, we won't see any more hardware until
Switch 2.
Well, it won't be the Switch 2. If they call it the Switch 2, that shows that they haven't learnt from the Wii U marketing disaster. But yeah, whatever they have next.
My biggest worry now is because they've gone with this revision. They're gonna have to wait at least like maybe a year and a half before they could bring something else out if they were intended to make a Switch Pro.
Yep. How old is the Switch Lite now?
Oh, that must be like a year and a half. Late 2019?
Yeah, September 2019. So it was Yep. No, so you're kind of right there. So the Switch we said was 2017.
Yep.
The Switch Lite was 2019. This is coming out 2021. That's been every 2 years. So in 2 years' time, 2023, will we see any kind of revision on the hardware, or will we see a Switch Pro, or will we just have nothing until we go on to the next console?
I think the biggest worry is that the power and the CPU and the graphics are technology that was back in 2017, and if like up to this point they've been lucky where the Switch has been selling like crazy, and developers have seen that and said, "Wow, we've got to get our games on there, and we've got to make try and put a port on the Switch." And most of the ports have not been they've been pretty good in terms of like how did you manage to get this onto a Switch, but like compared to the PS4 and Xbox One versions of the games, like you should rather play those versions if you want to get the best experience. But for me, I can't see in the next 2 years like how are developers going to port PS5 and Xbox One Series X games to the Switch. I just can't see it. I think it'll be too much. Because you look at like they ported Witcher 3,
Yeah.
and that was like they spent 2 years trying to port that game. And in the end, developers are just going to look at this and say, well, it's just not worth it anymore. Because they're spending too much time trying to squeeze squeeze the game down so it can fit and play at a reasonable frame rate. I don't think it's going to be... The only thing I can see them doing, which they are doing, is cloud gaming. Some of the games you can play on your Switch, but you can only do it via cloud gaming. So I think Resident Evil 7 and Control you can play on the Switch, but you have to connect to a server, and that does all the
hard work.
Yeah.
That's always been Nintendo's way, though, hasn't it? Like,
I know, and that's what happened with the Wii U. That's why the Wii U failed, because the Wii U was not very...
I don't think that's why the Wii U failed.
There was many... That was one aspect of why the Wii U...
Yeah, it was one aspect. I think the marketing was the biggest one for the Wii U. If they called it a different console name, it would have sold more. But Nintendo are playing the same game they've always played, and that is using hardware that is sort of not cutting edge. So even like the original Game Boys, like, the technology inside them was simple, it was reliable, and they relied on their brand to bring in the developers, and they wanted to develop for the system because that's where there are customers. And yeah, the Wii U failed because people weren't buying the system because they thought it was just something to go along with the Wii that they already had. So developers had no incentive to put anything on that system. And then you got a chicken and egg situation going on there. And yeah, it was a bit underpowered compared to the Xbox One and the PS4 at the time. But that would have been fine. I mean, that console can play... you can play Breath on the Wild on that, can't you? I don't know how well it runs, but it can do it.
Yeah, no, that was one of the major last games to be released on it. But yeah, I think it's gonna fall into that trap where they're relying on first party developers. You pull them out for the next 2 to 3 years, because as a developer you'd be looking at it like, I don't really fancy the idea of getting my game and trying to spend hours and hours, like maybe years and resources trying to put it on a system that's like from 2017. It's just not worth it.
But that's just the way consoles have always been. I mean, GTA 5 came out on the 360 and the PS3, and within a year, I think the One and the PS4 had come out. So they had got this game that was running on... so in 2013, like 7-year-old systems at that point.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's happened in the past. It's always going to be a thing that's going to happen.
But let's just think. Can you imagine like a game that's been made for the PS5 and Xbox Series X being on the Switch? Can you see it?
How many games get released on all three systems?
Not very many, but
throughout time, not just the Switch and the new Xboxes, but back when it was Wii and the 360 and the PS3, when it was the Wii U and the Xbox One and the PS4, like how many big games were released on all three systems, either simultaneously or mostly around the same sort of time? So excluding the Skyrim SE and the Witcher 3 that were released much later for the Switch.
Well, around about that time, what I remember is when the 360 and PS3 were first coming out, there wasn't a lot of... There was some, like, I think, like, Call of Duty sports games and stuff that was ported to, like, the Wii. But most of the games were, like, PS2 games that were originally made for the PS2 and then got ported to the Wii. But,
The
Yeah,
funny thing is, actually, you mentioned FIFA, and FIFA is is the one game that I would expect to be able to go on all three systems at once, because it's almost the same. It's almost the same game every year.
that's the funny thing. The Switch version is an inferior version to the PS4 and Xbox One, and the last few years they've even said like there is no graphical updates to this game. You're just buying an update. So I don't know. Yeah. So stuff like that, it's not good. But you could see stuff like more stuff like happening for the Switch.
Yeah, I mean, for a game like that, they're not building a brand new game every year, so it's easy to get that onto systems like the Switch or the Wii U, or whichever was the game console to have at the time. But
The thing is, the Nintendo have always got their first party developers, and they always manage to get by, and they got a pretty loyal fan base, so they're always going to be fine. But I think they really do have a good standing in the gaming world, but I think they could potentially lose that if they don't act quickly. And in the next 2 years, they need to announce a new Switch with a lot beefier hardware. Not saying it has to be like a PS5 or Xbox One Series X equivalent of hardware, but something that you could output 4K on a screen, and have, like you say, maybe like backwards compatible with the original Switch game, like Switch, and then upscale those games. That would be very nice.
yeah, I mean, I think it would be great if they did, and I think if they had a system like that, it would sell well. But I can see how they get into a position where they say they won't do that, because they really don't need to. I'm just trying to list off, and this is just by memory, the games that we have on the Switch. And to be honest, the games that we've got are going to be owned by 90% of the people who've got the Switch. So we've got Mario Kart, Mario Party, Pokemon, Breath of the Wild, the Zelda game that came out the other day, the Shadow Master of the Master Sword, Skyward Sword. Skyward Sword, yep. Mario Odyssey. I think there's a game I'm forgetting. We've got the 1-2 party thing as well. None of those games are available on any other system, and that's
the Wii U.
That's the thing.
The Wii U.
Sorry, none of those games are available on any other system.
In terms of
any
Nintendo.
other, as in terms of, I can't buy those games on the Xbox.
Okay, yeah.
I don't have any games on the Switch that are available on the Switch and on the Xbox.
Yeah.
Because I will buy them on the Xbox.
That's the thing that's gonna probably hold them through, I think, until they've got a pretty good.
But they've always
But
they've always been like that, and that's just I mean, you say about holding them through, but that's just their target audience is people who want first party games, and it works for them.
My problem is that they've got more than that, and they should realise that they've got more. They've got, they've had a lot of the big developers come out and port games to your system, and potentially you're going to lose them because they'll just get fed up and say, well, you're not really trying, you're not, you need to help us to help you.
Oh yeah, Animal Crossing, I forgot that one.
But talking about new handhelds, the announcement of the Steam Deck.
Steam Deck, the Switch killer.
I don't know if it's a Switch killer.
No, it's not a Switch killer at all. It's
Nah. Well, that's what people have been saying online. I think they're just dramatising it.
It's been crazy. Like, just on Reddit half an hour ago, I saw someone posting a picture where they'd drawn some fan art of the Steam Deck slashing a Switch with like a katana or something, and it's like, what are you going for? Like, these things can coexist. Like, are we promoting console racism? Like, we should let people be, all consoles are loved equally around the world, and But yeah, what do you think? So did you get one?
No, I didn't. I was
Did you want one?
Absolutely, yes, of course.
So you wanted one, but you didn't get one.
I wanted one, but for me, I didn't really try and get one. I was just like looking and seeing, because I always look to see what the final reviews are. I never pre-order something. I never. That's just my mentality, because you've got these guys.
You don't pre-order because you wait till they cost like £4 on a Steam sale. So like, let's not kid ourselves.
No. These guys are saying a bunch of stuff. They're saying it's open source. It can do this. It can do that. Let's wait and see when it comes out. I'm not saying they're lying. I'm not saying that they're giving you more misinformation, but I always see the reviews and people's experience before, putting my money down. But that's the thing. I think when I first heard about it, I was very excited. I was like, oh, Steam on the go. And then thinking I was thinking about my library on Steam, like, yeah, I've got a few games. It'd be nice to play them on the go. And then they said, oh, by the way, it's open source as well. You don't have to have like just Steam. You can just put Windows on it. I was like, my jaw just dropped. I was like,
well, basically, they've just made a computer, haven't they? So
yeah,
you can put anything on it.
They said that. They said that as well. It's just a computer. You can do anything you want with it. It's yours. We're not saying that you have to keep the Steam OS. It's like a Linux-based OS.
Yeah, it's this thing that they've been working on for a few years, isn't it? About trying to get all their games to sort of like run on Linux very well, so that they can release this and not have to charge you £100 for a Windows license.
Yeah, and well, they're using so some games will need like Windows.
Not Wine.
Windows Wine.
Yeah, Windows Wine is not an emulator. It's how you run Windows programs on Linux and macOS.
Well, Proton. They say they're using Proton.
Yeah, Proton.
Yeah.
I think Proton might be similar to Wine, but basically it's a Windows emulator for Linux. So all the things that Linux doesn't know, all the little binaries and DLLs, Proton or Wine would sort of like fill in the gap.
And it's interesting. And that's another thing I want to see, like before jumping in. I want some guy to install Windows on it and run a bunch of games, do some like frame rate analysis, and then run the actual official Steam OS, and then running Proton and see if it's any better, or what's the best OS to run these games. How do you get the best performance out of it?
The hardware is the hardware, isn't it? A processor can only push as many processes as it can. On one hand, the games quite often run better under Windows because that's kind of what they're optimized for. But if you can get rid of the Windows layer and run a more smoother operating system, then maybe you get a bit more performance out of there. But I don't know if you're going to see huge differences in performance whether you're running on Windows or the default Proton. It's probably the CPUs. The CPUs are so powerful these days, and operating systems are getting leaner and leaner, that it shouldn't really make that much of a difference. But like, what sort of frame rates are you expecting to get from a AAA game on that kind of device? Like, I would think somewhere between 30 and 60. Like, I wouldn't be expecting super high end gaming. Like, this is like, it should be capable for 30 at whatever resolution the screen is. A lot of games will probably do 60, as long as you get you're picking the right sort of like settings and everything inside the game itself.
They had Jedi Fallen Order on high settings. They were showing that off. So that looked so if you can play that game in high settings, that's pretty good. And they're saying that depending on like the battery life, what you could do is set the game to 30 frames per second, and then that could extend your battery life. So if you don't mind playing the game at 30 frames per second, then you get more out, like maybe another hour playing the game. But it's all up to you. It's like they're saying like you get like at least like I think 3 hours on like a really heavy game, maybe like Star Wars Fallen Order. Is it Jedi Fallen Order? So yeah, that's not too bad. It's not perfect, but for what you're getting a AAA experience, and the graphics and they're going to be PC high, normal to high settings on a handheld. What excites me the most as well is be able to just dock it. So you could just buy a dock, and that's awesome for me because I think I'll probably buy, if I get it, I'll get like 2 docks where I'll have one probably in my loft and then one somewhere else, where so then I don't have to like it would be so easy. So I just don't have to unplug it, take it, like if I had my computer I have to unplug it all, take it downstairs or something, you know. It'd be just so easy. You just put it in the dock, it's all already connected up, and then you're ready to go. And then if you had to do something where say you couldn't use the dock, you could just take it portably. You know, that's amazing.
Would you use it portably that much, do you think?
I think I will, because in my life right now, having 2 children, sometimes like you do get a bit of free time, but you can't like start, you know, leave the room or something and start playing a video game. You could like maybe like sit on the sofa and then, you know, maybe watch the kids play and do some gaming and stuff on your handheld. So for me it'll be perfect, like just a few hours, just get my little fix, and then yeah. And I'm also looking forward to, if you could put Windows on it, I'm looking forward to emulation, seeing what emulation can bring as well.
There's a lot of emulation on Linux itself.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to how far it can emulate games, games that I've owned and stuff. So yeah.
So is this something that you are quite possibly seriously considering getting?
I'm seriously consider getting it, but I will say I will also seriously consider getting one of it, either the Xbox Series X or the PS5. I don't see it as my main source of gaming in terms of, because the thing is,
But it could be though.
It could be.
You've got a good gaming computer at the moment, but don't take this the wrong way. It is starting to get a bit old. You know, it's from like, what was it, 2015, sort of that sort of age.
It's old. This will surpass it. This
So
Steam.
if you got the Steam Deck, you could keep your current your current gaming PC and, you know, use it for whatever, you know, podcasting, your work, light gaming, emulation or whatever. If you got the Steam Deck and a Series X or a PS5, do you think you'd get any other high-end, medium-end gaming PC at all, or do you think you just stick the Steam Deck Steam Deck in a dock and off you go?
That'll be me sorted for a good number of years. I will say though, because it's not upgradable, the hardware itself is not upgradable, then say like my computer that's 2015, eventually that technology is just going to get old. But I've kind of accepted that because, you know...
But the price difference though, like your computer cost, how much did yours cost? Do you want to say?
I got it cheap because the graphics card I got free, remember, from the uni.
I'm talking about your gaming PC, the one with
the gaming PC.
What, you got the 980 Ti for free?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
How did you get a 980 for free?
You had £1,000 credit as well from the university. You remember?
Oh,
the bookshop.
Right. Sorry, I don't. Right.
Yeah, remember that now?
Yeah, I don't mean that. I don't mean how much did you pay out of your pocket. How much did that gaming PC cost in actual money?
Yeah. Okay, I see what you said. Sorry. If I remember correctly, the graphics card was around about $350. The CPU was around about $270, if I remember, $270, $280. Motherboard, I think like $150, $175. Then I got an SSD, was probably worth back then.
They were quite expensive back then.
Yeah, probably like 120.
Right, so you're already double.
Oh yeah,
double the cost, and you haven't even got like memory, which I think was quite expensive back then because of the tsunami a few years ago.
Yeah.
And case and all that sort of stuff. If you got one of these and you replaced it with a modicum of, replaced it every 4 or 5 years as opposed to your current PC, which is already 6 or 7 years, it might still be more economical to do it that way. And if it fits your lifestyle better, then it works out quite well. So I say we. I was talking to my wife about it the other day and told her that I almost pre-ordered one, and she was like, "But where would it go?" And I said, "Oh, it will just replace your computer." And she got really offended. She was like, "But I like my computer." But I did have to remind her that quote unquote my computer is actually both of our computers. So if she wants to play games out here in the study, she can, and I can go do other stuff, whatever. This isn't my room. This isn't my computer. And the Steam Deck would far surpass the computer out there because mine is older than yours. It's lower spec than yours. I think it was a £500 pre-built computer, £500 or £600, and then I threw in a 970 in it a little bit later. So the Steam Deck would quite happily sit as a system that could either feed the TV or feed the monitor out there for non-TV video gaming, because I quite like... There's some video games where I like keyboard mousing and being close up to the monitor. Like something like GTA 5, I don't really like playing on the sofa. I feel too disconnected. I like to be sat at a desk and being that sort of distance. So that would fit quite well in that area, and it's just much more cost effective. But that being said, I did not pre-order anything, partly because I couldn't. And partly because I don't know if I'm actually going to get one anyway at all. I mean, if you look at Steam's track record with hardware, it's not great.
Yeah, they kind of just abandon it after
Yeah. So the only thing they've really stuck with is their headset.
Oh, the VR.
And maybe that's a good thing, a sign that they've changed their ways. But you've got the Steam controller. Actually genuinely thought about buying it a little while ago, but they've stopped doing it. You've got the Steam Link, which you and I both have, which we bought for pennies when they were trying to get rid of them. And I genuinely used mine for a bit as well, but since we've moved out into our own place, just haven't really needed it. I don't even know where it is. Yeah, it's not. It's difficult to know, and even while I'm saying that, I am remembering that actually Steam have been working a long time on this Proton Linux compatibility thing with all their games, so maybe there is some level of commitment that they've got into this kind of system. But do you really want to drop £500 into... I mean, it's open source. If it is open source, you can put anything, even if Steam abandoned it, I suppose.
Well...
It's difficult, their track record doesn't give any confidence as to which way you want to go with it, really.
Well, like you said, because it's open source, and it's just basic computer. So if they, they're not going to shut down the service. The service will always be there.
Yeah.
But I think most people just install Windows on it and do what they want, because there's multiple launchers, there's multiple games they probably want to play, but they can't because I can't play this game because it's on the Epic Game Store. The only thing I do worry about is some games that I do have only are mouse and keyboard, but they are 3D games, and they're some of them are like FPSs and stuff. But because back then, of course, there was controllers around, but in the PC world, there wasn't really any controller support. You have to manually map it. So
yeah, but from what I've seen, the Steam controller wasn't much better. You still had to have people creating profiles for each game just for the Steam controller to work. So it wasn't like they really made it that much better anyway. I know for some games that were keyboard and mouse based that the Steam controller did kind of fit in, and that's kind of why I thought about getting it, is because Jen and I both tried to play the first Witcher game, which it's a keyboard and mouse game, and I mean I'm all right with that, but Jen wasn't, and I was wondering if the Steam controller might sort of come and help with that game. I don't know if it would, but
it comes with a trackpad, so I don't know how that's gonna. I don't know how that's gonna work. For me, it would be just Oblivion, Elder Scrolls Oblivion. So on the PC, there's no controller support. It's all keyboard and mouse. So there is a piece of software called Xpadder, where you can map the keyboard and mouse to your controller.
Yeah, I think Jen has used one of those for The Witcher 1, but it just wasn't very good. The inputs are different. The input type is different, so it doesn't map very well. I think she got a little bit into the game, but it just wasn't working very well, so she gave up.
But there are workarounds. Like I couldn't see myself playing a keyboard and mouse game with the trackpad that they've provided on the controller. I think it will just be games that are natively supported by a controller. So like games that came after. I think the first game that I remember having support, sort of semi-support, was Battlefield 3, and then right after then, every game pretty much had controller support. And that's the thing. My Xbox controller has to have a dongle for it to connect. It's one of so I have the
Oh, because you've got the original one, right?
yeah. So I don't know.
But just get a new Bluetooth
I'm
one.
gonna have to get a
Like,
Bluetooth one.
they're only like 50 quid. Get one on eBay. No, don't buy a used controller. They're disgusting.
I am very excited, but I'm also cautious and waiting to see the reviews, see how good it is, see the feedback really, and people you don't know about the actual controls and stuff. There could be like input lag. There could be like really horrible, feeling in your hands and stuff. It has to be nice. I know, like that's the one thing that I think the Switch has over it is the comfort of holding it, because it kind of looks chunky in it, and they got the analog sticks right at the top, haven't they? On the Steam Deck.
Yes, I was wondering about how ergonomic that was going to feel. Like, I feel like if I had a Steam Deck, I don't know how often I would use it in
Handheld.
Yes, it's weird because I feel like I would use it docked to the TV more than I would. I'm still trying to I am still kind of thinking it in a Switch way. It's like, basically this is the gaming PC that is hooked up to the TV, and we might take away on holiday with us, or to use in a bit of downtime or whatever. Yeah, I mean ergonomically it's interesting. It's almost a bit PlayStation-esque, which was never my favourite controller.
Mm.
But that being said, I don't think the Switch is very ergonomic either. Like, on a very warm afternoon recently, I tried to sit outside with the Switch, and apart from not being able to see the thing, because it's not OLED, the way it felt in the hand was just not very nice. And the Joy-Con joysticks they're quite far down, so you have to hold the Switch in a very odd way to actually play some games. So I think I played 4 races in Mario Kart, and I kind of just gave up because it wasn't really working out. What would have been better if I'd brought the Switch Pro controller out and put the Switch on a stand, but because the stand is so useless. In fact, no, I think that's what I did do. I think I gave up with the Switch using the Joy-Cons, and I've got a little mobile phone holder that I can kind of angle on. I think that's what I did. I put it on there and brought the Pro controller out and just did it because, I really don't like the Joy-Cons. I really don't like games that make you use them. I don't find them good as an input method, really.
But to be fair, I haven't got a Switch, so I've only held a Switch a few times, so I can't really say.
If and when you do get to purchasing a Switch, be prepared to get a Pro controller at the same time, because for some games it's just an absolute must. The ergonomics of the Joy-Cons in something like Breath of the Wild or Mario Kart or even Animal Crossing, you don't need all the stuff that the Joy-Cons bring, and a larger, better built controller is just better. You can get a dongle and plug in an Xbox controller, but the button mappings they're physically in the same place, but when the screen says press A and you press A on the controller, you're actually pressing B, so that's a bit of it kind of messes with your brain. But yeah, I would definitely say if you ever bought a Switch, new or second hand, add on 60 quid for a Pro controller, because it's an absolute must, unless all you play is Mario Kart with 4 people and Mario Party.
Going back to the Steam Deck, one thing I would say, when you buy a new console and you get like two or three games with the Steam Deck. It's exciting that
that's interesting actually, because
you've got a massive library already there, because that's what excites me.
I'd never really thought about that, and I know that's in their marketing materials and everything, but like when we bought the Xbox One, I don't think the backwards compatibility was all there yet, so we couldn't play everything that we already had on it. When we bought the Switch, it's like we literally have the one game that came with it, and we're waiting for the other game to arrive in the post or whatever, or download it. But yeah, like if you buy this thing, yeah, it costs twice as much as a Switch, but it has all of my games in it. And if you've got multiple profiles, it's got all of my wife's games in it as well. So if you bought one, when you buy one, which one are you getting?
Oh, the middle, not the.
Why? How many games?
Not the one with the flash memory, the one with the SSD.
When a single game can be 100 gigabytes, why would you not just get the largest one? It's only £100 more.
Well,
if you're spending 470, why would you not spend 560 and get the full size one?
Oh, because I know that I will probably end up buying SD cards on Black Friday at some point.
Oh, but SD cards,
and
and
then get like 2 or 3 of them.
The loading times are going to be horrible. You might as well just.
I know.
You might as well just plug in an IDE hard drive.
But if I'm only using them for like games to be emulated on, then it's not the end of the world.
All right, fair enough.
I see your point, but there's not really like.
It's just a case of it's not cheap. The cheapest one. The cheapest one is not. I know why they have it, but I do not think the cheapest one should exist. There is no universe where eMMC storage should exist or be available on a device that costs as much as this does. 256 gigabytes of storage, like that could be as little as 3 or 4 games. If you're spending 400 and something pounds, and the next one up is only £560, it's not that much extra comparatively to what you're spending. It's less than a quarter extra on top.
They did say that's not upgradable either. Though, like you can.
But because that's the whole thing. Like if it was upgradable, it's like get the small one and put something else in. So it's only upgradable by. I suppose you could probably put a USB-C thumbstick in the top, because I've got a picture open right now and I can see the USB-C is on the top, which is fantastic. Because it's terrible on the bottom, if it like on the Switch. I get why it's on the bottom, but it shouldn't be. There's no reason you can't dock a Switch upside down, which I guess this thing would be. Yeah, that or SD cards, I guess.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what people can do with it, though. Like, once they get their hands on it. That's another thing where they're like, whoa, yeah, they said you can't do this, but you can, but then this voids your warranty. I'm like, well, I don't really care. It's just a computer.
Software shouldn't affect warranty.
I mean, changing opening up the actual.
Right, okay.
So if you wanted to.
Well, if you want to make changes in hardware, obviously that goes without saying.
It's funny as well, though, because then you could say like, well, you said it was a PC. You said it was a computer. Like, if I bought a computer from a shop.
Well, there are.
You're saying that I can't open the computer up?
Genuine reasons. If you buy, let's not even include Apple in this because they're terrible in this regard. But there's plenty of like Dell and HP laptops that are just terrible to open. I replaced a hard drive with an SSD recently, I think just before Christmas, on a Dell 2-in-1, and it was openable and it was upgradable. But they use plastic tabs on it. So when I put it back together, some of those plastic tabs snapped. There's literally no way I could have done it without snapping them, because it's like that's just how it goes together. Because where people want thin and light devices, and I'm one of them, like I absolutely adore my 11-inch MacBook Air, and I don't think there's a better computer out there in terms of like form factor and anything. Like I haven't found one that looks as good as it does, sounds as good as it does, because the speakers on that device are amazing for its size, performs the way it does, has as good keyboard and mouse as it does. I haven't found a device that kind of hits every single one of those boxes. I look at the LG Gram and the HP Spectre, and they tick 80% of the boxes, but there's like one or two things missing, and I'm like, oh, I just can't do it. And even a new MacBook, even a new Apple laptops, they don't completely fulfill it for me. But when you got something as small as the Steam Deck, or something as small as like the HP Spectre, it's like you might be able to open it up, but you can't expect that there's going to be much you can do inside of it, because if you want slotted RAM, well, that's going to be half as thick as the Steam Deck is anyway, and you still got to get a screen in there. The same with an M.2 SATA drive. It's like you probably could fit one in there, but that comes at other costs. If you solder those things in, you've got more room for cooling. If you solder them in, you can build them at scale. That makes the whole thing cheaper. So it sucks for the consumer, but it's a handheld device. The priorities are small and light, comfortable to use. You don't want it to get it too hot or anything. So that's where upgradability and that kind of have to go by the side.
Well, I think for me, in my head, what I'm going to enjoy the most is if I buy a docking station and I just chuck it in the shed, and then one day some random geezer just turns up to my shed and is like, oh man, I'm going to rob your shed, and he steals my dock. I'm like, well, that's not the end of the world, is it? I've still got my Steam Deck. And that's another thing. It's like, say if you've got valuable stuff, I'm not saying that your Steam Deck's not, one day your Steam Deck might get stolen if you leave it in your house, but if you leave it somewhere where it you wouldn't suspect someone to find it.
I'm wondering how many of these are going to show up on eBay as, stolen. Well, not going to show up as stolen, but they'll have been stolen, and they're going to say, oh, I have a Valve Switch for sale, £200 please.
I don't know.
Because they just don't know what it is.
I think the scalpers are going to go crazy for this thing as well, so I don't...
Yeah, I'm not really sure, because...
Our friend Barry managed to nab one.
I can see there's listings online, but the thing is, it's like people are trying to sell Steam Decks for £700, but I can go on Steam right now and I can pre-order one, and realistically the only difference is whether you get it in December or in Q2 2022. So I don't really know why people are gonna spend £1,200 on something that they only have to wait a couple of extra months on. It's not like
people want it for Christmas.
I know, but the way Steam are doing it is like you can order one today, and you're gonna get it. The thing with the PS5s and all the graphic cards is that you can't get one. You can't even get in a queue to get one. The only actual way to get one today is to get it through a scalper. So I get why the scalper market exists for those devices, but for the Steam Deck, like the scalper market, they might sell a few, but I don't think it's going to be as profitable as the console one has been.
There may be two reasons to this, because I think Steam are the ones who are selling the Steam Deck. But when you got the PS5 and Xbox Series X, there's a lot of online retailers selling these things, and they don't really communicate on a set date and time, and it looks like they have a set of consoles and like, we're gonna have this date and this time, and this other shop's gonna say we have this date and this time, and then they have only like a million consoles in stock, and then once they're sold, but then they don't take any more pre-orders. I think the way Steam are handling it's like, we might not have it, but if you put your name down, then eventually you will get it. It's not like we haven't forgotten you. It's like you put down your commission £5. How much was it? £5?
$5, £4,
right?
And just equivalents in other countries. But I kind of like that, because it's like, you're going to get one, and yeah, if you can get one on eBay sooner, then you'll decide to pay more for it. That's kind of how capitalism works. But
would you buy, like, say if we were our friend Barry right now, who there's a good chance that he will get his Steam Deck in December. Would you try and sell it on eBay and be like, you know what, I can make some money, and then eventually like you said, I know I'm going to get it at some point. I'm in no rush, so I can actually maybe double the value of what I paid. Would you do that?
No, because if I wanted one, then if you think about it, you can only pre-order one at a time. So if you get yours in December, you can't pre-order another one until you've received the first one. And if you pre-order in December, you might have to wait an entire year for your actual console.
Yeah.
So if you want one for yourself, it would be silly to buy one and then flog it. If you're just trying to make $200, then sure, whatever. But that's, I wouldn't really be in that.
I would.
Yeah, I know you would. You already admitted such.
I can sell it for 700, mate.
You don't know if you can. Like, just because there's listing for them on 700 quid doesn't mean they're selling for
Thing
that.
is, this is the right time for me to do stuff like this, but for some reason I just haven't done it. You know what I mean? All this scalper stuff. Like, back when the PS3 first came out, I know there was loads of people doing that. They were like buying free PS3s and then they were selling on eBay for like, what was it, like $1,000? In America it was like $1,000 because it was like worth $600, something ridiculous like that. Yeah, we're living in an age where it's like difficult just to get anything, and prices are going to go up. But yep. But I'm quite excited for the Steam Deck. I'm not very excited about. Well, I was excited for the Switch OLED, but looking into it more and getting other people's opinions on it, it's a nice handheld, nice screen, but there's nothing really that excites me. Like, say if this announcement came when the Switch Lite came out, then maybe I get more excited because I know that there might be a few more years to the Switch life. But I know that the Switch, there needs to be some sort of big revision at some point, and it's going to come soon. So I'm not really tempted to pay, what is it, £310?
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to pay £310 for something that I know in the next 2 years would be probably worth, I don't know, $250, $240, be a lot cheaper, and it will probably be redundant. They might just like stop producing them.
You have a weird way of looking at things that basically means that you're missing out on everything. You didn't get a Switch, now you're not getting the next version of the Switch. You're just missing out. You've either got to buy it used at a lower cost, or just not worry about it.
Did I not tell you this, where I think that the Switch was like worth, when it first came out, it was like, in the UK it was worth like $250, $255, and then I was like, oh, I really want to get one of these, and I was so tempted, and I was like, yeah, but I'm not so sure about it. I wasn't really, because I saw that the Wii U wasn't the way
Before you carry on, Wikipedia says the introductory price was £279, which is basically what we paid for it.
$279.
Which is what, because you said it was $250 and went up to $279, because you did say that before in a previous podcast. So the introductory price is what the MSRP stayed at, pretty much.
But I remember it going up.
What you're probably remembering is individual stores running promotions, not
that's probably
not MSRP changing, which is quite normal. I think we should finish with one more slightly related but completely unrelated thing that happened on the exact same day as the Steam Deck. Elgato had a press release, and they released a new Stream Deck, as well as a few other products. I don't think you've ever used a Stream Deck, have you?
No, I don't know.
You know what they are, though, don't you? It's
No.
You don't know what a Stream Deck is? It's basically it's macro buttons designed for people who stream to Twitch, and you can use it to you can do a lot of things with it. But the primary use of it was to change scenes in OBS from game 1 to game 2, mute your microphone, unmute, do things like that. It can do a lot more than that, but that's where it kind of started. They've released a few other things recently. So they released a new version of that, customizable faceplate, slightly more reliable, more robust materials, whatever. But I tell you what, I'm sort of interested in. They've introduced a new webcam, which is fantastic. That's one of the good things about the pandemic, is that webcams being good quality has finally become a real thing. No more having to use a £600 DSLR or a mirrorless camera plugged into a £200 capture card, you can just get a £200 or a £100 webcam and actually look decent. But my favourite thing, and this comes from my sort of audio background, they brought out a new microphone arm.
Wow.
I know, it's so exciting. But from a podcasting perspective, it is a low-profile microphone arm. I currently have a boom... I have a knockoff Rode microphone arm, and it kind of lifts up off of my desk by about half a meter, and it kind of cuts across my monitor, so I can't actually see very well the monitor that I'm recording on. I don't need to see the monitor very well, but it's still annoying. The microphone arm is in the way of my eye line. It's just annoying where it is. So basically, this is a microphone arm that doesn't go higher than 20 centimeters off the surface of your desk. So it puts the microphone quite low down, the idea being it would be just above your keyboard area. And you're going to have to make sure you've got the right microphone and the right setting, so you're not going to pick up all the keyboard and mouse sounds over your voice or whatever. But that is definitely the microphone stand that I think I need. It's only £100. I just need to work out how I'm going to get that anytime soon. Hopefully that's not the type of thing that's going to get scalped. I just think it's quite funny. On the same day, you got the Steam Deck and the Stream Deck released on the same day, and it is, I gotta feel sorry to the marketing team over at Elgato, because they thought they were going to have a great day of marketing on the 16th of was it Friday the 16th? They all came out, or was it Thursday?
I think the news came out on the Thursday, late Thursday, wasn't it?
And then they still, they had to basically lose all of their marketing to Steam and whatever the Gabe gods decided they were going to do for the gaming industry. But it looks like they have released some really nice stuff. I know Razer has just released a pretty good a webcam as well. Slightly more boringly, Dell have released quite a good webcam. Yeah, that's some weirdly good things that have come out of the pandemic is webcams, both external and even in laptops, are finally getting half decent. Gotta buy one of the new devices. You do you use your webcam much, Tommy?
No, not really. To be honest, I never really had a decent webcam. I've only had the Windows XP cams and stuff, really old.
Oh, you got. Oh, I know that. I know the one you're talking about as well.
Yeah.
Is it the Microsoft Life Cam or something like that?
Something like that. Yeah. It's
we haven't even got the cameras on for the podcast. We're just hearing each other. We're not looking at each other. I bought an Orki webcam for about £35. I thought Orki was a sort of reasonable brand to trust in terms of quality and everything. It's a terrible webcam. It's their sort of... Logitech do a streaming webcam for about £120. Orki have done a knockoff version of it for about £35. It is terrible. Do not buy it. The video and audio quality is just non-existent. It's supposed to be 1080-60. That was interesting. That's done something weird. It's supposed to be 1080-60. It is not by any stretch of the imagination. If you want a decent webcam, you are going to have to pony up £100 or £200 for one. But yeah, I heard that noise you make, Tommy. That is still cheaper than using a £600 camera going through a capture card. That's going to cost you another £100 or so, depending on which one you get.
Yeah, the thing is, with anything like that, you might as well just spend the money, because if you do it cheap, you might get lucky, but nine times out of 10. You're gonna get what you pay for. You get
what you pay for, and then you have to spend even more money to get something better. So I spent £35 on this webcam that is practically useless. And if I want to get a better one, I'm gonna have to spend another £40, £50, £60 to get one sort of bit better.
I'll give you £15.
What, for this one? I might keep it around, just in case. To be honest, the pandemic is mostly over. I'm probably going to keep it because I've still got I've got a couple of capture cards. If I need high quality video for anything like this, then I'll just plug in like I have been doing. I've got a camcorder and a DSLR that I'll just plug in, or a GoPro. I've got plenty of options. I just thought having a webcam with a single USB cable instead of messing about with HDMI leads and OBS and everything. It's good enough for meetings that don't matter, but it's not gonna do very well as a, if you're trying to do something like recording or streaming with a face camera or anything. It's not nice enough for that. Thank you for listening to this episode of the North vs. South podcast. Please feel free to subscribe or follow us. Leave a like or a review, or even share this podcast with your friends. We'd really appreciate it. Bye for now.